Hi, okay. Hello, everyone. I am extremely nervous right now. I'm going to chat with you for a little bit before I actually start. So I'm very nervous. When I saw the lineup of speakers, I was like, wow, all of these speakers, they have all of these credentials. And I'm like, I'm just a student, and why was I chosen, right? And I was very nervous, and I'm still nervous right now. I'm even wearing right now my Python PH socks right now, so they said it will make me a better speaker. I hope it does. I don't know. But yeah, and getting to this spot actually had a lot of hurdles. And in fact, one of those hurdles was my PowerPoint, right? I created my PowerPoint using something called slide dev, and I am using a laptop that is borrowed from the company that I used to work on, and I didn't realize how slow it was, okay? And then my slide dev didn't run, and I needed to change a lot of my slides. I needed to change some of them, and so from this sort of design, we kind of are downgrading, okay, it's not, to a white presentation. So I'm very sorry. All right, anyways, so before we get started to the actual topic, I am going to be telling you why this sort of topic is relevant or important for us developers, especially in this time. And this is because from what I have observed is that the world revolves around data. Everything around us is data. Even you yourself is data. Your DNA sequence, how you walk, how you eat, whatever you're eating, all of those are data. And in fact, we can even realize, or we can even say that data runs the world. And so I want to emphasize this, and I want you to repeat this over and over again inside of your head. I want you to say, data runs the world, data runs the world. And I want you to say it with me in 3, 2, 1, data runs the world. Okay, thank you everyone. And data runs the world. And this is true, right? A lot of systems, even AI, uses data to decide on what they're about to do, on what's next in their plans. And so now what I want you to do is to think about what are the systems or what companies or organizations are using data to make decisions. And now while you're doing that, I'm going to reintroduce myself. Hello everyone, my name is Ian, and I am I'm just a third year student in computer science. I think I'm the youngest speaker. I'm not sure. I'm just 20 years old. I'm also a DevCon Kids Manila chapter lead learner. So what does this mean is that I'm more used to talking to children or teaching children rather than professionals. And this is actually my first time talking in a sort of a big tech event. So I'm very nervous right now. And I was also a part-time automation engineer in a very small company here in the Philippines. It's not really tech-related. It's not really a tech-related company. But yeah, and I've been learning and teaching Python for around 5 years, and I'm still continuously learning it until now. Because, well, there's always something new to learn, right? And now, so this topic that I'm going to be talking about is SQLModel, right? And let's go back to what I told you earlier, which was think of a system or organization or businesses that uses data to make decisions, right? And I want to ask you a question again. Where does all of this data, or where are all of these data stored? And the answer is very simple. It is stored in databases, right? And so this is something that is very important. Every single data, most of the data in the internet are stored within a database. Now, the problem is that databases with Python are normally still written with SQL. Now, I didn't want this to be a slide-heavy presentation, so I'm going to be coding with you. I'm going to be trying to code at least the example of how we normally or traditionally do databases with Python. So I'm going to be using SQLite. Okay. Hello? Okay. So how we normally do it, right? I don't know if any of my code is going to work, by the way. I haven't tested any of this. I don't have a script. I'm just vibing here, okay? Everything I'm doing is off the script. So anyways, so how we normally do it is we import SQLite, right? And then we make a connection. Let's say, okay. Right, so we normally make a connection and then we create a cursor. And so this is where we normally run our database code, right? So this is how we normally connect to a database, and then when we do inserts or SQL queries, we normally use something like con execute. Let's say let's create a table for code wizards, because this was supposed to be about magic, but yeah. And so we are typing a lot of things, right? We're typing SQL code into Python written inside of a string, right? So let me just finish this ID, and then let's just have a really simple database for this. Right, so this is how we normally write SQL in Python. This is the traditional way, is we still use SQL. Now this will produce a lot of this introduces a lot of problems, but let's just finish this whole section. So let's create that, and I think that should create, that should create the table. What is this? Yeah, okay. That should create the table, and then let's try to insert something. Okay, I'm not going to use that anymore. Let's try to insert something. Let's say con is dot execute insert. Okay, I have forgotten how to do SQL. I am very sorry. Okay, insert into wizards. Okay, so how we normally do this is we insert something like this, right? Okay. Okay. Oh. And again, we're still using SQL code. And then we're going to go further and try to select this. So we're going to select this. And then let's fetch it all. And let's see what it produces. Okay, it produces a list of tuples, right? And so this is normally how we deal with a lot of databases. We have a lot of lists, and we have a lot of data that are within the list, right? And so how we normally access this is we use indexes in Python. So how we normally can access this is like something like this, right? Where's the mic again? Hello, okay. Okay, now this is how we normally access data from a list, right? Now, my question is, what do you think will be the output of row 0, index 0, and index 1? Gandalf, right? Or is it Gandalf? Will it be Gandalf? And the answer is, okay. Yes. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Okay. My bad. This is supposed to be rest. Okay. And now, what the heck is happening? Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. I realized what went wrong. Okay. Let's move this to. Okay. Let's move this code here. Right. This is my first time trying to present with Marimo. Okay, so it is Gandalf, right? But there's a problem. The problem is we didn't really know that Gandalf was going to be the answer. Why? Because we're using numbers. And that becomes a problem. That's a very big problem because your code suddenly becomes non-readable. And so this is what we're trying to solve, right? Okay, let me just do this. This is something that we're trying to solve. What if we don't have to use SQL strings? What if we can just use pure Python to code and manage databases? And so this is where SQLModel comes in. Oh, it went back. So let me introduce you first to SQLModel and who I believe is the LeBron James of fast APIs in general. He is my idol. I love him very much, and I love fast API. Fast API is great. And this guy created something called SQLModel, right? It is a Pythonic way of handling databases, and really it just works out of the box, right? So I could explain to you really what SQLModel is, but instead of doing that, instead of using a lot of words, I'll just do a presentation. So you'll see how it works and how it looks like. So let's go back here, okay? All right. So earlier, this is how we created our database, right? But first, so this is how we created our table. Now imagine this. What if we can write the table inside of a Python object? So people who, oh my God, sorry. People who are more, people who use Pydantics or data classes will realize how this looks like. We'll have a little bit of an advantage, okay? So how it normally looks like is, okay, so imagine that. A class is a table. What if we can have something like this? And this is what SQLModel does. So we can create our schemas inside of objects. And so, okay, I'll drop that again for now. Okay, this is very hard, honestly. Because of how this is slanted. Anyways, yeah, my mouse is just falling off into non-existent. Okay. So this is what SQLModel pretty much does. Okay, this is wrong. Will this work? Okay. What? Oh my God. Yeah, okay, it worked. Okay, good. And so what we're going to be trying to do is we're going to create a table inside of a class. So if you used Pydantics before, this is basically defining your model, or if you've used data classes, this is defining your model inside of a class, right? And so now we will define our fields, our columns. And how can we do that? Is just by doing something like this. And now as you can see, it's more defined right now, right? We all know that Wizards has an ID and Wizards has name, right? It's working now with Python code. It works with Python code pretty much. And then you might ask me, what about the primary key? We all know that ID is a primary key, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry for that. Okay, so we can use fields, which is inherited from fast API. I mean, not fast API, from Pydantics. And then we can say that, okay, so let's just default this to none, that this is the primary key. And now I just want to say congratulations, you have just created a database with Python. This already represents a database. This is already a table inside of Python. And this is the idea of This is the whole idea of SQL model. What we call this concept is ORMs. Okay? Now, I'm not going to go very deep on the concept of ORMs, but I just want you to know that ORMs are generally used to create database tables using Python objects. And so, now that we have this, let's create our SQL engine. Let's actually try and connect to our SQL. So I'm just going to remove all this random stuff that we did earlier. And this as well. Okay. Okay. So let's try and connect to our SQL model engine. Okay. So let's create the engine. And now, this is something that you have to think about, okay? You can place the SQL engine that you're going to be using in the database URL. I think a lot of people, I think a lot of stacks does this already. Like, I think in web development, you place this in your env. So for example, when we do something like SQLite, we'll place SQLite in our database. And then we can just say the database name, for example. And then to create this table, since now we have an engine, we technically now have a database created, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to check and hope and pray to God that we have a magic DB. Do I have a magic DB? I don't think it generated a magic DB. Well, let's see anyways. Okay. So let's create the table. So this is how we create the table. So we create everything from the engine. Since we've already defined our schema right here. Okay. Oh, that's why it didn't work. Okay. Please work. I think it worked. All right. So if you look at this slowly, okay. We now have the magic database. Now, I'm going to use something called, I guess, SQL Web to show you how it looks like right now. If I could click this again. All right. Okay. It is, okay, I am stupid. Okay, you also are not seeing what I'm doing, but I'm just opening the database right now. Okay, now it's running. Great, I love this. It's running and it's not doing anything. Okay, let's open it. Okay, now as you can see, it created the wizards table. So imagine this. We wrote this in a Python class and now it's within SQL without writing a single SQL code, right? And this is something that I love about SQL model, is that we don't have to go really away from Python itself. We don't have to keep switching from models to models, right? And so now let's try, okay, I'm now destroying everything. Oh no. Okay. 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 Where did my press? Okay. Okay. So now let's insert the data. And inserting a data inside of a table is now very verbose. It's way easier to read now. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a session. We're going to import the session. And we're going to use a context manager to connect with the engine. Okay? And now we're going to insert data, okay? So how we're going to do this is we're just going to initiate. Okay, we're going to initialize wizards table. And then now we're just going to say name is equals to Gandalf. And now look at that. That's more readable, right? It's just like writing your own Python code in different cases, right? And so we just add this, and then we commit this. And now, okay, I didn't run this code, I think. Oh, because it's the wizards table. Okay. All right. What happened? Oh, yeah. So we have to add wizard, and okay, nice. Now, using this session, I'm also going to be getting the data that we just inserted inside of SQLModel. So let's do that. Let's use select. Okay, I'm going to try and do this as fast as I can because I have 10 minutes. Okay, now let's do something like statement. I'm now blanking out. Okay, so let's select wizards. And let's say we're going to select something. Wait, does this work? Yeah, okay. Let's say we're going to select something. Let's select wizard's name Gandalf, right? That's what we inserted. And so let's execute this, and let's see what this will do, okay? I don't know if I actually did this right, so we'll find out together. Okay, I got no error. I'm happy with that. And let's fetch. Let's fetch all. Or I guess let's just fetch one for now. Right, it doesn't print. Okay, now as you can see, we have, okay, I'm not going to leave. We have now a tuple of data. And that data is not inside of a list, a tuple, it's inside a class. So when we're trying to access the data, like the name, we can now use something like, for example, that name, okay, you know what, to make this a lot easier, let's say that this is Gandalf. And now, look at this. And now it doesn't work. Okay, I understand why. Okay. I think it's because it's okay, now I broke it again. Man, I'm getting really sweaty here. Right, there you go. So, as you can see, instead of using something like 0, 1 index, we use something more verbose. We use that name to access the data from SQLModel, or the database itself. Now, this is generally the power of SQLModel. And I'm not saying if you're using something like SQL Alchemy, I'm not saying you should replace it with SQLModel because SQLModel is built with SQL Alchemy. But I'm saying for beginners that this is something that we could do with Python. We don't have to write data that is very messy. We don't have to create lists of data from a database that is very messy. We can just use something like a class using SQLModel. Now, I don't know if I have time for something that I want to show you, but I guess let's continue the PowerPoint. Okay. So now, as you can see, we no longer have row 0, 1. We have replaced it with something like that name and that ID. And those are more readable for a human. And this becomes a lot more maintainable as well because you're just using the OOP principle. And so that's pretty much it. But how many time? 5 minutes. Okay. There's another thing that is very powerful in SQLModel, and that is field validators or model validators. So imagine you're inserting a data or receiving a data. Well, I don't know if I have time to show you, but imagine if you're receiving or returning a data, and let's say that someone's inserted a name without any input. Let's say it's just an empty string. Let's say that someone did something like this. Right? Now, that is not something that is correct. So the funny thing, the fun thing about SQLModel, and I'm going to try to do this as fast as I can, is that we have Pydantic combined with this class. It is inherited from Pydantic models. And so inherently, we have every single thing from Pydantic. So we're going to import, oh my God, field validator. Please, please, please. OK. OK, so let's do this. And OK. And we can place it something in here. I don't know if I have time. And I think I did this wrong as well. You know what? I'm just going to run this. If it will run, OK. OK, and we can do something like this, which is a Pydantic thing, basically. Actually, I think I have it in my notepad instead. If I can copy it real quickly, so that you can see how it looks like. Oh, OK. Sorry. OK. OK. And my mouse fell. Oh, no. What happened? OK, it broke as well. But my mouse fell, and everything is going hell. Oh, my God. OK, so as you can see, well, let's say something like this. All right. OK. So this is generally how it's supposed to look like. I have a couple more minutes, I think. I don't know how long. But yeah, so what this does inherently is, I don't think I have time to run it right now, is that whenever we send a name inside of the wizard, right, it will run this field validator. It will check the name. It will check this before it goes to the database. It will check all of this. And then it will say, OK, it will run all of this code. Is the value, well, does the value have anything, right? And if there's nothing in it, if it's empty, it raises a value error. And this inherently will not commit the data inside of your SQL. And this is something that is something I love in SQLModel, and something that a lot of people hate in SQLModel, apparently. And this is because of how slow this is. This is very slow, by the way. This is extremely slow because there's a lot of overhead. There's a lot of things running on the background. Even if you're not using field validators, it's still going to have validators by default because it is a Pydantic model in the background. So inherently, it is slow. It is very slow. And it uses, when you use advanced queries, how many times do I have? 2 minutes? OK. OK. Inherently, when you use more complicated database queries, it becomes really hard to do all of this, right? And when I mean like really complicated queries, I mean like using multi-joins and stuff like those. Those are really something that a lot of SQLModel users or past users really hate. And so I hope you learned something, because I only have 2 minutes. And if you have any questions, please do email me. I didn't place my LinkedIn there because I didn't really have time. Or if you just want to say hi, do still email me. Or if you want to talk, hey, let's talk, right? And that is all. Thank you, everyone.